Good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone. Welcome to the second webinar of this second edition of the GAW-TEC webinar series. As you know, this second edition is focused on reactive gases. I'm Valentina Rabanar, I'm the YES officer, and today our speaker is Richard Olav from the Norwegian Institute for Air Research, and he will be talking about how to submit data to EBAS. Before going to Richard's presentation, I will, as always, give you a brief summary of the code of conduct. Please be polite and respectful to the speaker and to all the participants today. If you have any question, you can type it during the presentation in the chat box, and after the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where your questions will be answered. We are recording all contents in presentation, Q&A, and messages in the chat box. So by joining this webinar, you express your consent. And right now, I will give the floor to Sonia, who will present our speaker today.
Yes, welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce our speaker today. We have Richard Root with us. He's a system developer at the NILU, the Norwegian Institute for Air Research, with a background in informatics and industrial ecology. He's mainly working as a system developer on tools for data management and curation, as well as machine-to-machine interfaces for data and metadata interoperability. In addition, he works with data curation for the EBAS data center. Today, he will talk about the EBAS data center and also how to submit data to GAW World Data Center for Reactive Gases. Richard, we're very happy that you're here today. Thank you for this, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Valentina and Sonia, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I will try to share my presentation first. This presentation is on how to submit data to the GAW World Data Center for Reactive Gases. So first I will do a short historical and background, a little bit on the background information, and then we will go into how to practically submit the data, and also a little bit on how to access the data from the EBAS database. But starting off, the EBAS database, originally EBAS was the data archive for the European part of the UN Convention for Long-Range Transport of Air Pollution, a part as the European Monitoring and Evaluation Program. And it was started first in 1979. So today's underlying relational database, it's used since the mid-90s, and today we're working on migration to a new database. So things will be quicker and more up to date. And currently we have about more than 126,000 data sets in the archive, and it's growing every day. So EBAS started in 1971 with acid rain, and now we cover a lot in EBAS. So we host the different world data centers on reactive gases and aerosol, but also cover a wide range of other projects. And EBAS contains everything from aircraft measurements to hand-picked MOS samples. So some key metrics. Today there are 53 international frameworks and projects that have contributed to the data in EBAS, and 83 countries have delivered data to the database, and we have data from over 1,200 stations reporting over 702 different components, so chemical and physical properties. A little bit about the history of WMO and GAW and EBAS. So the World Data Center on Surface Ozone was established at NILU in the late 1990s. And in 2006, we did major upgrades of data reporting procedures within EMEP and the GAW World Data Center on Aerosols. another project called AUSAR and ACTRIS. And in 2009, the Joint Research Center in ISPRA suggested to transfer the World Data Center on aerosols to NILU. And in 2014, the Japanese Meteorological Agency suggested to transfer reactive gases to NILU. And in 2016, the World Data Center on Reactive Gases was established, and NILU took over the responsibility of this part of the GAW program. And in 2020, we had most of the legacy data from the World Data Center on Greenhouse Gases, where it was hosted previously, migrated to EBAS. So a little bit on the GAW World Data Center on Reactive Gases. The goal is to integrate information and measurements from all stations globally to obtain new information and facilitate easy access to the data. So this includes collecting the data and archiving all the data in what we call long-term repository. We also want to provide free and open access to all the data in our database. And we also want to complement this data with data from other relevant networks, as well as providing new products and tools for analysis of atmospheric composition. And the reactive gases hosted at the World Data Center for Reactive Gases are SO2, oxidized nitrogen species, tropospheric ozone, and volatile organic compounds. And the World Data Center on Reactive Gases utilizes the database infrastructure at NILU and shares much of the same procedures and data formats as the World Data Center on Aerosol, but also EMEP and ACTRIS, which is a European research infrastructure. So what do we have today of reactive gases data in EBAS? We have over 52 countries reporting data from the World Data Center on Reactive Gases to us. And 162 stations from over 20 different instrument types, and this covers 196 different components. So why is data reporting important? There's a lot of effort behind the atmospheric observations, and it's important that the data are used. So atmospheric measurements are hard work by many people, and considerable amount of money is invested. So reporting makes the data available for various users, both now and in the future, and can contribute to solve central environmental questions within air quality and climate. And the goal is to provide access to data for a wide range of users in these different for the different GAW data centers, but also ACTRIS and EMEP. And it's important that we have these central databases with common standards and making access to data easy for a wide range of users. So a little bit more on the value of reporting and sharing data. We want to make data available for various users, both now and in the future. So access to data for a variety of users can hopefully result in that we get the improved funding situation by demonstrating the value of the data, that we improve the quality and the methods that we use for measuring and doing the observations, and that we can also facilitate more collaboration and interaction between different measurement communities measuring the same components, and also illustrate progress in different projects, so that you can and that the data center is a prominent PR instrument for these projects and initiatives. And also in the EU Commission often judges projects by the number of how many times data has been accessed and how much data has been produced in a given project. So if you report data to EBAS and us, the question is who owns the data. For every data set created within ACTRIS, EMEP, and GAW, the data is owned by the partner or data provider who created the data set. So we want to have easy access to data, and most of the data we want to make openly accessible to everyone. But currently today we have some regulation in terms of a data policy for the different networks. And today we're working on implementing traceability of the data, so including persistent identifiers, and also moving towards concrete licensing on the data that you store in our database. And also another point is that data must be fair and regulated. So we put a lot of effort into showing who has been the data provider. And it's important to facilitate the involvement of the data providers to ensure that the proper use of data and to reduce misinterpretations. And we also make an emphasis on making the funding source visible. So you also can get funding and show this in the future. And in Europe, we're working on this Fair Data and Fair project that is working on improving the fairness of the data, so to make it findable. So working on the standards and procedures for making the data in EBAS is easy to find and easy to access through common standards, and also making it interoperable, so it's easy so the data in EBAS will also be available in different European projects and portals, and that is also easy to reuse the data. So that's putting a license on it and making sure that the data users know what they can and cannot do with the data. So currently there's a draft license that will be ready soon. So it's a Creative Commons license that will be issued on the data that we store in EBAS. It tells the user that they can use the data as much as they want, but they will have to give attributions to the data submitters. And also data associated to WMO and GAW. These are also associated with other network. So for some sites, there's overlap with both ACTRIS, which is the Aerosol Cloud and Trace Gas Research Infrastructure Network, and EMEP as well. And then who uses EBAS? The data providers, of course, and different policy frameworks, as you see listed here. And then the data is owned by a country or an agency that is contributing to the network. So an example is EMEP. We also have scientific networks. So this is where the World Data Center on Aerosols and Reactive Gases is under. And the data is typically owned by the data provider or the PI of the data set. And then you have some example of research projects. For example, ACTRIS, as mentioned in the previous slides, where the data ownership is a bit different among the sites that are reporting, but usually it's the data provider and the PI. And then another user group is the data users that actually extract the data from the database and use them in for example, modelers. We have Copernicus that sets up streams of data that they use, ESA and different other project partners. So we're migrating now, so I was not able to do the latest extract of the user statistics, but this is from last year, and it shows you the kind of what extent the access of the data in EBAS and the reactive gases. So you see the monthly statistics, and you see the distribution by if it's plotted, downloaded, or if they only inspect the metadata. But as you can see, it typically lies around 50 unique users every month, and there's quite high. So here you see the amount of downloads. So some months it's over 10,000 data sets that are downloaded a month. So quite high numbers there. Then main modes of data submission. We host mainly two data streams. So we have what we call the regular and annual data submission, and then we have the real-time data reporting. So when I will go to the practical part, I will focus mainly on the regular annual data submission, because the near real-time data reporting usually requires a more bilateral contact with the data center to set up for a given instrument. So if you want to provide near real-time data, then please contact the data center and the EBAS team directly. But for regular data annual data submission, this is what we call final fully quality assured data that includes uncertainty and variability where applicable. And the deadlines depend a bit on the framework. So you see here for GAW, it's 31st of December, the subsequent year of when the observation was conducted. But if a data is associated to one of more of these projects or networks, then you will only have to provide data to EBAS once. And then if you provide, for example, you're labeled as an ACTRIS and a GAW station, the deadline will be 31st of May. So the calls for data are typically sent out as official letters to over 150 station contacts, and reminders are sent out, and also some personal contact from the NILU side to get data from high-profile sites. And important to mention that the obligation on reporting the data is always on the data provider's side. And in addition, so if the data is reported to both the World Data Center on Reactive Gases and ACTRIS, then the data flow is a bit different. There will be a call for data directly in our support system, and the data provider will get a notification and will follow up through NILU and EBAS through this system. And if you're reporting from a new station that never has provided data to EBAS before, then you will have to make initial contact with the EBAS team. So all this information will be on the last slide, so emails, etc. But and also for sites that have been operating back in time, we encourage that they send the full historic time series to the database. So practical part, you see here on the left-hand side, we have different tools. So we have templates and submission manuals for different instruments and parameters. And then we have, for example, a Python package for assembling data and the metadata header, and also some additional tools for format checking and assembling the files. So the data submitter will typically use these tools, and also if there are issues with the file that we find, for example, during the manual QC procedure at NILU, then feedback is made through these online support systems. And if everything is fine with the data set, then it's stored in EBAS. And then we have different access modes on the right-hand side. So first, how to submit your data. The data submitted to EBAS has to be formatted in the EBAS NASA Ames format by the data provider. And this format is based on the ASCII text NASA Ames 1001 format, but contains additional metadata. So the information would then be found on the what we call our data submission manual. So here we have different templates for different instruments and parameters. So here you find the instrument or component parameter that is relevant to what you're measuring, and then you will typically click the template, and then you will get the information. So we require a lot of metadata, and metadata is data about data, but describing what is in the file. And it will ensure that your data will be understood and interpreted correct. And in our templates, you will be able to click each line so you can get the detailed information on each metadata element. So for example, here we have we have a template for nitrogen monoxide. And to exemplify, you can, for example, in the template, click the 5th line here, and you will get a description of what is required. So the templates, they contain instructions and an example, and then each line in the example is documented on a separate page. So it should be fairly easy to see what is required in each of these lines in the metadata header. The templates are also divided into different data levels. So in ACTRIS, so if your station is also reporting to ACTRIS, then you have to provide level 0, level 1, and level 2. So where level 0 is short what we call annotated raw data, and level 1 is data processed to final parameters, and then level 2 is the quality, fully quality assured regular annual data file. If you're only reporting as a GAW station, then you will only need to report level 2. So then we showed you the templates. So you find the correct template for your instrument, and then you will need to assemble this metadata header. So you have 2 options. You can either download the template and modify the metadata header, or you can use our Python library for assembling the metadata. So typically you download the metadata example from the templates and load this into a regular text editor, and then you go line by line and edit with the information for your station and your measurements. But also, if you plan on reporting for many stations and you do this every year, a lot of our users, they use this EBAS.io Python library for both assembling the metadata header and adding the data itself. When you have created the metadata header, you will need to quality assure your data. So that means that you have to follow a specific standard operating procedure, and this is documented in your metadata. And links to all SOPs are available through the online manual. And so you have to follow the standard operating procedures and also flag the data itself if there are specific incidents that you want to highlight to the data user. And then we have a wide variety of flags. So all these, this is just an example, but all of these are documented on the online manual. And on each template, there's also a short description of the most commonly used flags for that specific instrument. When you've assembled the metadata header and added the data itself, then you need to check that the format and everything is correct. So then That's the first line of checks, what we call the EBAS submission tool. And through this submission tool, you check the format of the file, and you are also able to upload the file if there are no errors found in the metadata or in the data according to our initial quality control check. So yes, it's designed to give the data submitters direct feedback on the NASA Ames file, and it also gives you feedback on how to best solve or troubleshoot the potential errors that you get. So here you see a screenshot of the submission tool. You have to select a specific file. Then when you've uploaded the file, you will press upload and check. And then you will get feedback if there is something wrong. So here you see on line 36, you have feedback that the combination of different metadata elements is not allowed, and that you should use a different unit in this case. So if you solve the error and you get 0 errors, you're able to submit the file. You get feedback that the file was submitted successfully, and you will also get the confirmation email based on the email that you provided in the metadata header. And yeah, so when that is done, then the manual QA procedure at NILU will start. Yes, part number 2. So once you've submitted the file, we start the work at NILU, and we have a bunch of support and data creation tools. So if you're part of ACTRIS, the data is typically called for every year, and then you have to provide the data to us. We will do curation work, and if there's something that we find out about when we do the manual QA, we will get feedback and be in contact with the data submitter. If everything is fine, then we can upload it into the database, close the issue, and the data will be available online. And for some parameters, and in some cases, there are also some external quality control conducted by, for example, in ACTRIS, by different topic centers, and they will look at the data quality before sending the data back to us, and before we do the last checks and import to the database. So this is if you're reporting both as a World Data Center on reactive gases and ACTRIS. So as you can see, this is our support system. We call it Mantis. Here you get the feedback on the data you have submitted. If it's in ACTRIS, as I mentioned, it will be called before you submit the file. If it's you're only reporting as a GAW station, then your file will only end up in this system if there's something wrong. If there's not something wrong with your data and you're only reporting as the World Data Center on reactive gases, then there will be no contact to this support system. Yeah, and as you can see here, each submitted file has different given different statuses depending on where the file is in our internal workflow system. Training by data center personnel. So from time to time, we also have online training session, usually coordinated together with ACTRIS and EMEP. And this training will be announced through newsletters and relevant mailing lists in the context of GAW. And this training that we usually do, it's typically once every year. We have this online help desk where people could call us online and work with us on issues they have with, for example, formatting the metadata in a file or basically whatever they want to ask. Sometimes we give webinars, and of course the written documentation, so all the templates and information there. And we also do, I mean, we have a support email that the data submitter also could use for asking specific questions. So on data access, the main mode of access is the EBAS web interface. There you can search the data set by different criteria, by framework, country, station, instrument, etc. You can also visualize the distribution of stations on the map. And for the data that is restricted, you can manage access. And there are also some other resources, for example, trajectory calculations for stations. And you can also do a selection and further on plot, browse and compare data set as well as download. So here you see a user that has selected some criteria. They get the list of available data sets, and from here they can see what this, so the ones that are grayed out, they are not available to the public, but the others they can select on the left hand side, and then they can plot or inspect the metadata directly. So both select different instruments and compare between different stations, as well as download the data set. In addition, we have what we call a Thredds data server. So that's a flat file archive where the whole EBAS database is available as .NET-CDF files. So this is typically used when the user has what we call a virtual research environment, for example, a Jupyter notebook that they want so they want to work with a lot of data programmatically to plot or create their own application. And this server lets you either download all the files as .NET-CDF, or they can also be streamed through what is called the opened up protocol. There are also various tools like Panoply and NCView that you can use to access the data directly. So you can just link the Thredds server catalog, and then you can plot and work with the files directly in these applications. And in addition, for users that are interested in harvesting metadata from multiple databases, they often use this, what we call OIA-PMH server, and that's a protocol and server for harvesting metadata descriptions of the data that as well contains links to the actual data set itself. And if you're reporting from a GAW World Data Center on reactive gases station that is also labeled as an ACTRIS station, the data will be available through the ACTRIS data portal. And this portal also have a REST API. So then your data will also be available here. And yes, here's a summary and the end of all the links and resources that you need if you are thinking about submitting data to EBAS. And I think that's it. So thank you very much. Then I guess we can take some questions if there are any.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for your presentation. This was a very detailed instruction on data submitting. That was very good. I think we have some questions in the chat box. The first one is, can you tell us something about the geographic distribution of the 83 countries that contribute data to EBAS?
Yes, I think I had a map. So at the very, very beginning. See, here you see, so this is for 52 stations or countries that are reporting to the World Data Center for Reactive Gases. And as you can see, it's very much European sites by the dots. So, yes. I don't know if there's any, if that answers the question clearly, or if the.
Yes, I think so. I think we have another question. Valentina, would you read it, please?
Yes. The second question is, how is the geographic distribution for the 83 countries that contribute data to EBAS?
I think we just had this one. It was.
Sorry. Oh,
yeah, so
sorry. Oh, I read the wrong one. For a new station, is it possible to submit all data? For example, out the current deadline?
yes, so I mean, if you have, for example, you'll be conducting measurements for the last 3 years, it's not too late. So if we do not have your station in the database now, then you have to contact EBAS at NILU.no, and we will need to create this station in the database, and then you can submit I mean 10, 20, 30 years of data if you have that, and that's very much what we want. So but the deadline is put for substations that are reporting to us every year, and they will need to follow this deadline. But we are happy to get all the data we can, so please do not think too much about the deadline if you have data that is relevant for our repository.
Thank you. There's a question. Sama would like to know if you have the ability to cooperate with universities in providing them with instruments to measure reactive gases so you can extend the networks, especially in regions with no available data.
Yes, I mean, I guess it depends a little bit. So what we are only a database, and then these different networks, for example, in ACTRIS, there are some ways of, for example, borrowing instruments or things like this, I think. But then I think you need to I mean, if you're in Europe, then ACTRIS and EMEP will be typically contact points. And if it's on the World Data Center for Reactive Gases, it has a national, so each country that is a member of then GAW should have a national contact. And that national contact could probably put you in the right direction of a relevant network that might be able to help you with things like instrumentation. But for us, we do not have any instruments. We're only the data center that hosts the data.
Right. Thanks, Richard, for this very informative talk. I had a question about the quality assurance standard operating procedures that you mentioned. I'm wondering, how much of a barrier to entry is this for new data submitters, and perhaps following up, how much will you work with the data submitters to overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, so I think if it's I mean, it's possible to say that that you didn't follow a specific standard operating procedure. And even if you didn't, it would be of interest to try to, or to have the data in our database and to, with other metadata elements, described as best as we can the measurements themselves. But I guess if you have cases like this where you have not followed the specific standard operating procedure, then please look at the template for your instrument and then contact us, because even if you didn't follow a SOP, we're very much interested in trying to host the data in our database. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard, for the branch presentation. My question is more about what kind of challenges and also how to overcome them while securing a good quality of data, mainly when you have, stations distributed all over the world, and also there are less developed countries and the less developed regions. who are suffering from infrastructure issues. So how could you really ensure that you have this good quality that could describe this all distributed regions?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, I mean, in Europe, we have ACTRIS, and ACTRIS is following the same procedure, and it's very standardized. And then you have these stations that are located outside of Europe that doesn't follow the same procedures. For us, the most important is to making sure that all the stations try to follow. For example, in GAW, there is this operating procedures that you can follow for your instrument, and that you try to follow these, and that you document that in the metadata header, so we know how the instrument was set up and all these things surrounding the measurements. So, but yeah, from what I'm aware of, there are no specific networks for reactive gases that are as specific as ACTRIS for other regions. But yeah, it's I mean, yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm the system developer, so I'm on the scientific side. I'm not that knowledgeable, but yeah. So for us, it's important that the data is well documented, and that way we can increase the quality. But yeah, I don't have a good answer to that. I guess it will be up to the World Data Center on Reactive Gases to work on informing through the data call, for example, that they follow specific operating procedures for their instruments. And yeah.
Okay, I think we have a last question from Lorenzo. You touched upon this in your presentation, but to recap, what is the procedure for a data provider to solve an issue with data submission? What is the best way to get in touch and troubleshoot issues?
So, I mean, if you have a little bit of programming skills, I would recommend using our Python package. There you have examples for different instruments. It's very easy to modify and then fill in the metadata, and then you can export and get a file out, and then it will check it through our submission tool. I think 90% of the data we receive from around the world, they can use this tool without having to have this direct contact with the data center. But if you have specific issues, you freely can contact us through mail. So ebas@nilu.no, as is described in the last slide. So, but following the manual, and then creating the header through the Python package, and then checking the format and uploading a file, then you should be fairly good to go in terms of data submission. But you can always send an email, contact us, and we try to answer within a week. Yeah.
Okay, I think we don't have any questions so far. So I think we will close the webinar now. Thank you again, Richard, for your contribution, your presentation, and for answering all the questions. I'd like to announce the next webinar. It will be on October 27, 2 p.m. UTC. Christoph Zellweger from EMPA will speak about measurement of tropospheric ozone. We posted the registration link in the chat box. Thank you all for coming and for watching our webinar, and yes, see you soon at the next webinar. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.